Hello, hello, hello. Just testing my inputs. Sounds good, sounds good. Hello everybody, so today we're going to be streaming. We're going to talk about launching a Next.js project for your website. So we're going to go over the software you need to do this. Then we're going to run through, Zesty has a really quick, easy way to launch a Next.js website with one line of code if you have all the software installed you need. We're going to build that project out a little bit, and then we're going to talk about working through content with that. So to get started, we're going to look at the different software we need, which is not too bad. Everything's free, which is great to start. So taking a look at the software, we are going to need Google Chrome. I think everybody's probably has this. You could use Firefox or Safari. I like Chrome. I just think the developer tools are great. Firefoxes are good too. So it's kind of indifferent. I'll be using Chrome in this demonstration. The next one is VS Code. So I'm just going to go ahead and load up the different web pages for each one of these. So VS Code is Microsoft's IDE, their integrated development environment. And it's nice, it's really nice, it's free. You could use any of them. Again, I'll be using VS Code, but you could use your favorite IDE if you already have one. But it's free, just search VS Code, Microsoft product. This is being replaced by Atom. If we know, Microsoft bought GitHub, so they are discontinuing Atom in December. The next two things you're gonna need is Node. Node is a JavaScript server-side framework. I guess not a framework, but it's more of like a processor. This allows you to run JavaScript from the server, and this is really important. This is what's going to do your build process and all that. So, and then there's Node Package Manager, NPM. So there's Node and NPM, and I believe you can get a dual install of both of these together. So I think just search Node NPM Node install, and the NPM should have this simple installer here. Doesn't look like this is it. Let's look for a different one. Download Node.js. So you can go to nodejs.org and then you can download it here. I don't believe this comes with the NPM package manager. It just comes with Node version 16. So installing Node via package manager you have here. So the next thing, once you install Node, you'll want to just install NPM. So there's other options too. NPM is the package manager I use. There's also Yarn, which is pretty popular. But you'll just search to install NPM. Okay, let's go back to the other things. The next one's going to be Zesty. So in Zesty, everything's, once you have Node and NPM installed with the VS Code, you'll be able to launch a Zesty Next.js website-based project immediately. It's free as a developer, community version. You can just work in it, and it actually will just build and create the account for you right inside of the terminal. You won't even have to go to the website or set up an account, which is pretty nice. So that's the setup we have. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get into the Zesty Start app. So you can just search Zesty Next.js starter, and you should see a couple different options. You see it in Zesty.org. I think we have a cool landing page for that. Let's see how that goes. Yes, there's our landing page for it. So what Zesty is a content management system. So when you build a website with Next.js, it's very helpful for managers, content managers, marketers to be able to control that content. And what Zesty does is it lets you launch a Next.js application right away. It works server side, it can work statically too. And it makes it really easy to connect content that people edit in a headless structured environment like a Zesty is the CMS to work right alongside any type of React code you want to write. So Next.js is a React-based framework. The coolest thing about React is going to be JSX and the ability to write JavaScript inline templates alongside HTML markup. So it's really easy. Again, you search just Zesty.io Next.js starter, get to this page. This is the line of code you're going to want, and I'm going to copy that. Also note that this code is also available. You can see it right on GitHub. So 90% of everything we do outside of the backend APIs is all open source in Zesty. So you can just go actually look at the project itself, and we'll post these links inside of the description after the stream gets cut over to a video. But it walks you through how that's going to work. So, okay, let's get started. So the first thing we need is this line of code right here. And once we have that line of code, we need to have a terminal running. Oh, I guess there's another thing you need. If you are on Windows, you will need, I guess you'll install Node. So you'll have a terminal. You can use PowerShell. I use Ubuntu through Windows WSL, which I think is Windows sublayer. So I'm going to be doing it from Ubuntu. So I'm in my terminal. That's where I'm going to start as a developer to get going. And the first thing I always like to do is see where I'm at in my terminal. So I have a folder called code, and that's where all my code goes. So I'm going to change directory to that. And then I have a directory called test, and that's where I kind of have my throwaway code. This will be that. So I'm going to move into my directory test. And now once I'm in the directory I want to start my application, I'm going to simply paste that line of code in that we copied from the website. And that's it. And then you just hit enter. And for this example, I'm going to create a new user account just so it's fresh the same way you would experience it. And hit enter. There we go. So what's your project name? The first thing you're going to do is project name. I'm going to call this, I don't know, Next.js example. So whatever you name it, it's going to name your folder that and your package name. You could change it later, but it's good if you're going to call it like marketing website. That's fine too. But I'll just say Next.js example website. Alright, so what this is doing now is it's using Node Package Manager to go download all the different JavaScript that's used to work with Next.js, to work with Zesty and React, because those are going to be the three core things that you're going to be working in. And you'll see this terminal is just installing. This is Node doing its thing. This is like the greatest Node Package Manager. It's awesome. So it just runs. Again, there's also Yarn as an option, but I'm a little old school, still using Npm. Alright, so once it does its install, it's going to ask you the first question, set up a Zestio instance with this project. I'm going to say yes, because I'm going to create a new instance. So Zesty instance is it's a repository for content. That's what a Zesty instance is. Email, I'm going to put in Randy plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at Zesty.io. And it says password's hidden. So I'm making a new account here. So it's asking me for a password. It's first going to see if your account exists. If not, it'll create one for you. So I'm going to make a password. So it says authentication fails. That's not an account. Unable to log in with that email, create an account. I'm going to say yes. So I have to give it my first name and my last name. And it's going to create an account. It's going to run the authentication and get everything set up. So it's going to say there's no instances found of my account. Correct. I have a brand new account. Create a new instance with this name. I'm going to hit yes. Okay, so we just got started and we're now we've now installed it locally. It's generated a bunch of endpoints for us, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at this code. So we're going to change directory into the, let's see, what do we call this? Next.js example website. And we're going to take a look at the directory that we have. And I'm using some command line tool, ls. This is list. And I'm just taking a look at the code here. what files are installed, and then now I can hit code dot. And this is gonna open up my code editor. So inside my code editor, we're going to look at my projects, and we'll talk through what the project of a Next.js application looks like, just to get a feel for it. So there's always going to be package JSON. So this is your npm start. Like, this is what npm uses to install the dependencies to make this work, and we'll see that here. And then we have in Next.js, we have a couple really key folders. The most important one is pages. Pages is which renders the actual website that you're looking at. So in order to get this running, to run Next.js, we'll look, it tells you down here, it's giving examples in Yarn, but we're going to use npm. And we're going to do npm run dev here. And it looks like we have a issue, which we'll look to resolve. And it's missing a particular one. So this has to do with my node version I'm running. So this is important to note. I'm going to go say node-v, and I'm running version 14. And this could be the issue. So I'm going to say, I'm using node version manager. So I'm going to say nvm use v16. Let's see if this makes a difference for me. Run that again, and I still have an issue. Let's see what it is. It's saying it can't find a module. React DOM. So when something like this happens, could have to do with your setup. I'm going to look to install React DOM. And if I look in my package manager, I don't see React DOM installed. So we're going to look to install React DOM. And then how you do this, npm install React DOM. I spelled npm incorrectly. And now we're gonna go ahead and attempt to run again. Okay, so that was the issue, is we were missing React DOM as a dependency. We'll get that updated in the starter for you so you don't have to run that step. Okay, so what's happening now is I do npm run dev, and that runs the Next.js project. So we'll look to clean up the desktop a little bit so we're not so messy. We'll get our code here. And now we're going to open up the browser. So this is where we say the part of having Chrome installed. And you go to localhost 3000. So that is where it's going to live, the base. And you'll see that we have an issue, and this is a configuration issue. We're going to show you how to fix this. So with Zesty, we created an account, and the account I created, I'm going to log into. So how to do that, you can go to Zesty.io. We'll just do that. Go to Zesty.io to walk you through the workflow. Click login, and I created the account for this test one. Is Randy 123456, and password here. Okay, so that got me in. So that's the account. When I was in the command line, I created that email and with the password. So now I can see my project here, and if you notice, the project's named the same thing that I named my folder. If I click in settings in there, I could change this project name by clicking the pen here, and just I can edit this and save. I'm going to leave it as is because it's lined up nicely with what I'm already doing. And you can see down here, you can see user access, and it shows the account I created, and it shows I'm the owner of the site. I can invite other people here too, so you can invite your marketers or other developers in this way, and you can select roles for them that are pre-made roles. There's other things too, like developer tokens and team access, but we're not going to cover that in this example. So from here, I'm looking at my one instance. I'm going to click edit content. It's going to launch open the Zesty manager. And this instance launches with a home page and clippings. So look at this. It's I think this one installed Bootstrap, but you can use whatever framework you want. We'll show that as we get through it. And where I want to go right now is settings, and I want to add a password. So we're going to go to, I believe it's going to be security here. Pick this HTTPS. So basically getting certain things configured. HTTPS is good, always redirect to HTTPS. I want that on. And there's a couple developer settings too. We're going to turn on these APIs here. And get in the general. Let's see, refresh this. Okay, now we're seeing new settings. So the web engine mode we want is hybrid. Hybrid means that you can run headless or you can run traditional mode together. There is just a full headless mode which only loads JSON, but we're going to leave it in hybrid for the time being. Click down into security, and we need to add a preview lock password here. And that's what's creating the issue with our request is there's no password. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to make a very simple password, Spaceball style. And now we're going to go back into our application. And Next.js has a config file here. And you can see that I was missing my stage password here. And I'm going to save that to get this updated. So in this Next.js config, I have an instance Zuid. This is where my project's loaded inside a Zesty web engine, which we'll see. And this is the base it launches with. How this is accessed headlessly, which is all done automated, but you can just add $2 JSON to it, hit enter, and you'll see that this page now renders fully in JSON. And this is what's going to be passed to the page when we develop in Next.js. Okay, so Next.js config, it has environment Zesty. This is what's needed to run the Zesty integration. Key things, instance Zuid. This is the ID that you're going to get from accounts. So this ID, if you click on settings, you'll see it here. This is the instance ZUID. That stands for Zesty Unique Identifier. So that's the ID there and the code. And then below is the URL to the web engine preview. You can get that over here. We automatically enter it for you in the integration, but just click open preview and you can see this is the URL where preview is. And then production, this is we create this URL automatically on the fly, but you can add your own custom URL as well. But this is where our production URL is. The difference is here is going to have drafted or stage content or stage changes. Down here we'll have published changes, and that came out without HTTPS. We're going to add S to that as well. Okay, so now that we're running in this, and we have our Next.js app running on localhost 3000. Let's refresh and see if the stage password made a difference. When you change any environment variable in Next, you need to restart the Next application. So I hit clear on my terminal to get rid of all the output, and I'm going to npm run dev again. And this will get me what I'm looking for. I hit return, and you can see that we're okay. I entered the password into my environment variable. I put the password in Zesty underneath settings, and now I'm able to get the data. And if you notice, this says Bootstrap template ready. We'll load this over here next to the Zesty manager. We'll go on the content, and we'll go edit this. So I clicked home page, and I'm going to change this to Next.js example starter. Save. Okay. So now Next.js, when you save something external and its data, you got to do a hard refresh, and then you'll see that now this is synced up to this. And this says, welcome to the Zesty Next.js starter. And if we want to get this data in, we're going to walk through how we get that data in. But just to recap what we did, we'll look back at here. So we talked about the software needed. we got the Zesty Start app installed, and now we're going to work on building the project out. So taking a look at the project now, we're going to go through the Next.js folder structure and what you have to work with and where things are. So the key things in Next.js, you have pages. If you're going to build pages outside of that don't exist in Zesty Manager, you can build them here. So if I was to build a page right here called like hello.js, I need to run, I believe it's export function, and I'd name it just hello. Give it a capital E, hello. And whatever I return here, which is JSX world, might need the word default in there. There we go. And then I want to import React from React. So that is the base. This is like a base React component here. So now if I'm over here and I go to hello, you see I'm getting my hello world output. And I can type anything I want here. So I can make a list of the things we're going to be doing. So this is a base component. Why I'm showing this is that this overrides anything that's written in a hard file like this, like I hard wrote the file, it's going to override anything that resolves in Zesty. So if you're building an app alongside your website, like we do, this is very useful. Very useful. That is not how I want to do the work. Save this, and you can see that it's just updating in real time. So that is a just hard written file. It's always going to resolve to this file. So the magic file is called slug here. And this is what's going to resolve anything that lives in Zesty to Next.js for you, and that's what we're going to start showing now. So the first thing that lives in Zesty is a home page, and that automatically resolves to a view. And where does this component live? It doesn't live in pages, and that's important to note. It's going to live in views, Zesty, and then the component will be named after the component that lives over here. So this one's called homepage, and you can see I have this Zesty tutorial line here. Delete that, and I have this description here. I'm going to delete that, and now I'm just showing h1 content title. I can delete the Zesty tutorial stuff, and now you can see I'm just editing on my homepage now. So if I go back into Zesty Manager, I'm going to bring this over here, organize that, put this in this tab. You notice that I have a title and I also have content here. So I can now output, I can create a div and just output content.content. So the way the object gets passed into a Zesty component, this is a Zesty component that matches the Zesty content model made over here, which is named homepage, is that it gets past content. So this is a little weird because I have content title, but then I have content and the name of this item is content. So I get content. So let's see what resolves here. So now we're seeing that we're getting this default bootstrap ready. Let's change that to a Next.js starter template ready for you to copy and paste your code into. Let's save that and let's see if that updates. Cool. So now we have that. So notice that this is rendering, it's not rendering the HTML, like the paragraph tag isn't being found because this is a rich text editor. So this is a p tag. Like if I was to bold this, right, hit save, refresh, you're going to see my strong tag there. So how we get this to render in React is you need to run something called dangerously set inner HTML. And you pass, you pretty much are going to move this reference, this object over here, and then save. not like that. So let's go like this. It's actually going to be, I think, like this. Something like that. So whenever I run into an issue like this, I'm just going to Google it. Google foo. I was close. So it looks like this. There's just a double bracket around it. Looks like that. Thanks, random person on the internet who posted that. Now Next.js automatically updates, and you can see that it's applying the bold tag. And if I was to go add, say, a heading 1, let's see if we start seeing this update apply now. Yep. So now it's taking my rich text. Why is this called dangerously set inner HTML? It is because if someone was to inject JavaScript here, they could change the page and overwrite a login. Since I know where this source is coming from, I control this source, it's safe, right? So I know that this resource is controlled behind a secure login, and nobody nefarious is going to be editing unless maybe my content manager nefariously injects some script, but that's our responsibility. This isn't coming from an external set of code. This isn't something that, like if you were writing a comment section in a website, you wouldn't want to do this because the comment could include a bad script, and that script could overtake somebody's interface and make them look like they're logging into a bank, or who knows. Like that's the reason why this is called this way. But this is the way you're going to want to render rich text, as long as you control that rich text. Cool. So now let's look at resolving an image here. I'm going to go upload an image in Zesty. Let's go grab this. What do we have? Where does that Zesty robot live? We'll just go with the Zesty brand mark right here. Go with this one. Okay. Select this, and it's going to be on page. Hit save. So how do we access an image on page? It's a little bit different in Zesty because you can have multiple images here. So the way you access it, it's a little strange, but we'll walk through how you do it. So again, we're just going to say content dot, this one's called image, and you can always see here it says main image, images, image. This is the field name. So I'm going to say main content image. An image is going to have data associated with it because it could have many images in it. So it ends up looking like this. Data is an array. And I want the first item in the array, which is 0. And then I just say URL. So let's look to see what happened here. Let's refresh to see if we have that. So what happened was I'd updated an image. Next didn't have the latest data. So you have to refresh for Next to fetch new data. So anytime you make a change in Zesty or any like external resource for data, you do have to do a manual refresh of Next. Otherwise, it does a hot load, which is really cool. It'll just update the template. So notice now you're seeing this URL for this icon that we just uploaded. And if I copy it, it's going to be coming from Zesty's CDN, which is great. And I want to turn this into an image. So we're going to go image, source, and that should do it just like that. And now we're loading this image here. And you can see the hot reload, which is really nice. This is built in the Next, so since I'm running like the npm run dev, it's hot reloading. So cool. And notice I have like this header and footer placement. In our starter, we load a component, the two components that are going to wrap. So underneath components, you have footer and header here. And you'll see like this nav header footer here, and you can see that in the header. I can replace this to like my starter website. Right, and you can see that's changing in the header and the footer. Copyright, ampersand. Where's that ampersand? Copy 2022. All right, so now I have a header and a footer. And I don't have any styling or anything like that running in this. So on this particular starter too, the header and the footer, they get included in, we start with the layout and they get included here in this layout. And you'll notice that the header is being referenced here, the footer is being referenced here. So this is nice because this is, you can like design your page. You notice we're loading specific fonts here and all that. Okay. So what's next is we're going to walk through in Zesty. We're going to add. So the starter started with a template, this content area, and an image. So what we're going to do in Zesty is we're going to add a new section to this, and we'll call it. We have a title. Let's get a subtitle going. So in Zesty, everything that controls something we call a content model, and behind the scenes of a content model is Schema. And you can get the schema a few ways. There's this little database icon to the left, and that is schema. There's also an edit schema button, so when you're looking at a particular item, you can quick jump to edit schema. So we're going to jump and go ahead and click edit schema. And you'll see here behind the scenes, this has the title, my intro text, and main image. And if I open this up, we'll see the reference is title was title. And if we go to intro text, we'll see that intro text is called intro text is the label, but the actual reference name is content. And if you notice, like when I open up my component, I'm going content title, right? Title, the reference name, and then content, and this one's content content. A little redundant, but because that's called content. And then when we look at my image, it's just called image. So what I want to do is I want to add a regular text area, and it's a subtitle. So I'm just going to call it subtitle. And Zesty will auto fill out a reference name for you. You could change this, so this could be something, whatever you want, but we're just going to leave it as it is. Add field. Subtitle loads below. You can see there's a few options for it, like making it required or not. We're going to leave that. You can add tooltips for editors, which is really nice. So you could say like this loads below the title. This is a very obvious thing, but just an example. Hit save. And then to order it, to make it easier, I'm going to move subtitle underneath title. So it lives there. Cool. And I want to get back to editing items. Two ways to get back. There's always a little shortcut item here for edit items. You can also click up here in the tab bar to go back to the home page, or you can go into the content app, and you notice like we'll use the same icon for the tabs. So I'll click on home page to go edit it, and I now have a subtitle area that wasn't there before. This is awesome is going to be my subtitle. So I'm going to save it in Zesty, and I'm going to come back over here, and remember I changed my content, or the data changed remotely, so you have to give Next a hard refresh, but it doesn't show up. It doesn't show up because I need to write it into the template. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to write h2 and content, and I called it subtitle was my reference, and I hit save. And if we notice that now we're loading Next.js example starter, this is awesome, and this is my WYSIWYG area. Cool. So that's working with the home page. Now, if we want to add a new set of pages, let's create a model called articles. So now we're going to jump outside of the home page and get into a model called articles. We're going to go into schema. You click the little database icon, and we're going to create a new schema configuration. And you can go through these answers. Will this page be public? Yes, it will. Will this have multiple entries? Yes, it will. And what it does is it changes the type, and it's going to pick a multi-page model, which makes sense because I'm making something called articles, which I'm going to have many of. So articles here. And again, everything like models and fields, they have reference names. So article is the name. This is what gets displayed to your content author. The reference name is how you'd reference it in the code. And I'm going to create this model. And you get started, we're going to add a field. Each article is going to have a title. And I can use Markdown, or Markdown is actually kind of cool. I can show that. I'm going to use Markdown. And this one's going to be called the article body. And every article is also going to have an image, so I select media. I'll say like article image. And I can change, like I could have 1 or 2. So let's just go with 2, and we'll show you or 3, and we'll show the example of how you loop through multiple images. Cool. Okay. So now I have the schema for articles, and I have a title, a body, and images for each article. I need to get this, how I get this to resolve over here in the world of Next.js is there needs to be a component named articles in Zesty views in order for this to load. So really quick, simple way to do this, I'm going to go back into my back into my terminal. This is where I have npm run dev running. I'm going to quit this, Command C. I'm going to clear my terminal just to make it clean, and I can run npm run sync. And run sync is going to generate components for you. And if we look now in our views file, it's going to download components that I didn't have before. The one I really care about is article, right? So when Zesty syncs, it's going to create, the starter starts with a home page, so it doesn't overwrite the home page, but when it starts, it's going to sync with Zesty, and it's going to create this nice little example. There's comments above the files, and it tells you, this is how you have access to it. It explains how you work with the image that I showed you. There's also links to where you edit it in Manager. So if I was to click this, this will open up the schema that I'm looking at now. So this is useful. This comment's definitely useful. It gives you the ID. You may use this in the future, you may not, but it's good to have here. It also starts me off with a simple React component, and it exports it for me. So this is the template. So I have an article component, but I don't have any articles yet, so I need to go add an article. So I'm going to click, what did I just do there? I'll take a step back. There are shortcuts in Zesty, so I can add an item to this model right away, or I could go into my content app, expand this out, click articles, click create article item. This is, my article of the day, Next.js. Let's just copy this comment. There we go. This is in Markdown, so it should create a weird list, I imagine. With all the dots. We'll just see what happens. I just copied that in. And then for article images, I'm going to load up 2 images. I'll go upload another image. I want that robot, but we'll get this old school Zesty sideways logo. Very cool. Okay. Oh, and that's kind of grayed out. Let's go get a real image too. Let's see what we can find. Brand, media assets, company photos, general office. Look at this old school office folder. Let's go grab one of these. Let's get Jax the dog. That's my puppy when she was a puppy. And we'll see that load. And there's Jax. We'll get Jax in there. So we have 3 images here. And this is our article. So we're going to create the item. We'll talk about meta as well here because meta is auto-generated. So here's my article body. Here's my title. And I have a few images. Over here, there's meta information. It tells you everything in Zesty has a unique identifier, a ZUID, Zesty unique identifier. That's here. It tells you the locality it's in. This is in English, United States. Last edited. It shows the publish history and if there's any drafting histories. There's not. I'm going to save this now that I have it updated. and I'll see that I have some information updated. So I can also click in the Seo Meta and look at my, this obviously description is really bad because it's showing markdown, so I want to change this to like, I don't know, a great article about Next.js. And if you see, it shows an example of what it would look like in Google. Theoretically, we're going to leave that. It's also this cool thing, Content Insights, which looks at your content and shows you how many words in here match the words in your content. I'm not very concerned about that right now for this demonstration, but all right, so now we have our article body. So how do we navigate to this article? We need to look at what the URL path is here. There's two ways to do this. So I can copy this directly because I know it's off the parent, or I can click the preview button here. And this is going to load what it looks like in Web Engine. So this is going to be straight up just the content. But I just really want this URL to load inside of Next. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to go back into my Next project. And I'm going to edit my homepage to have this link, so I just have it conveniently in my homepage. So we're back in the homepage component, and I'm going to just call it my, I have another H1, I'll just call it my articles. And I'm simply just going to hot link to this one. And let's see if this loads. Oh, why isn't this loading? Because I went and I ran sync and I didn't rerun my project, so I have to go npm run dev to restart the local Next.js application. And then I'm going to reload this. So I have my articles in my first article. Now if I load this up, you'll see I'm getting my article today. This is what I have right here in Next.js. So how did this magically load? What it did is when I ran npm run sync, it reached out to the Zesty servers. It created this article component. And this article component is what's outputting this view. So if I was to type hello world here, hit save, you'll see that I get hello world above my article title. So cool, I now have an article. So there's an article we're going to get into actually rendering the output of this article, because this article we have a markdown, this markdown field. We have a title and we have images. So remember how we go through images? It's like a strange way because like if there's multiple images, it loads in data, so it goes content, image, name, data. We're actually going to load through multiple images here and show how that works. So we're going to create a div, and we're going to map through the images, so which is really cool. So this is a JavaScript thing, works really good in JSX. So we'll say content dot is it article images, I think. You can always look up here to see article images, it referenced that. And then we're going to write data, because that's where the array is, and then we're going to map into it. And the map's going to look like this. It's going to say image, and it's going to output something here. And what I'm going to output is I'm going to output a image tag, and the source is going to be image.url. And then I'll just close it, and I believe I can just do like a short close like that. Okay. Now if you notice, there's this giant Zesty image. There's this picture of Jax. There's just her ear. And there should be a little Zesty logo right there. So what's cool is now I'm mapping through the images, and I'm just outputting the image as it is. So in Zesty, you have access to the on-the-fly image editing. So we call it OTF. So OTF Zesty docs. Let's see, on-the-fly media image and dynamic manipulation. This is cool stuff. So I'll just show the docs here. I know how to use it, but I'm just going to show you why it's cool. While the doc loads, we'll start working in it. So this shows examples down here and how it's done. So you can see you could throw a question mark, you could change the size of it. This is important because it's about optimization. So there's two ways I can do this. I could say width equals 300, and that's going to force my image down in size, and see these are all now 300. The problem is if I load this image in a new tab, hi Jax, and I inspect it, go into my network tab and refresh. That is a big image. So the size of this image is half a megabyte, almost 444 kilobytes, almost half a megabyte. And you can see the time to load in that, it's pretty bad. So if I'm only loading this at 300 pixels, I'm really wasting space. So how on the fly works is I could say question mark width equals 300, and it's going to automatically resize this, turn it in the WebP, and let's see the size now. 5 kilobytes. So now we're like, what is that? That's like a fraction of a percent of a megabyte. So we went from being half a megabyte to a fraction of a percent of a megabyte. Really cool. So what's that, like half a percent or so? So that's really important. So I could do 300 here, but then I'm going to get penalized by Google and be like, oh, your page loads slow. So you could take advantage of using this query parameter in your output of your image. So I'm going to, just to make it nice and clean, I'm going to say, in my component, I'm going to say let image size, and I'm going to start with, I guess we're using 300, so we'll just use 300. So now I can reference that image size here. I can say width, just say image size. And then in order to access this, and I'm just going to clean up the code so we can see it a little bit better. In order to write the source, I have to do a string literal. And when I'm working in JSX, I have these brackets on either side. I have to write a string literal as these backticks. What's cool about string literals, it's newer to JavaScript, depending on how old you are. It's new to me, but it's just test. So I had my sound cut off because I think my headphones didn't detect me listening to any music, so I'm going to throw music on the background and they automatically shut off. Cool. All right, so let's step back. I think my headphones might have been cut off when I was creating the reference. And thanks, Giselle, who's watching, who let me know my sound cut off. And let's check chat, actually, if there's anything going on in chat. Yeah, we got some things coming in from chat. People saying hello, Jaxie. Hello, all. And so coming back, what I did when my voice cut off is I set a variable inside my component called image size inside my JSX, which is in the return. I'm using that to control the width of the image, and I'm also using Zesty on the fly image manipulation to resize that image. That way we get really good crisp images responding. So let's take a look at, and where were we? Okay, so Jack's looking good at 300, and then let's just kick it up to 500, you know. Save. And now you see the images are getting bigger. So this image was only uploaded at 100 kilobyte, 100 pixel, 128 width, so it's starting to look bad, right? Because it's gotten too big. This one's really big. This is cool. But Jax is like a regular. This is taken with like a Canon DSLR or something, so it's a big photo. So that's how you can manipulate photos on the fly. Super nice. There's all sorts of stuff on the fly. You can play with it. You can orient something. So I could say like, I can just say like orient equals V, which I think is vertical. See what happens. That flipped everything. So, and I think you can do like orient ls. I don't know. I forget the yeah. So there it is. And there we go. Ooh, it looks like a lightning bolt. The Zesty logo now, and now Jax is sideways. That's fun. There's other things too, like you can mess with saturation and background color, brightness. I like playing with saturation. I think it's fun. Let's just do that. So you tag each one on. Saturation equals 100, and I don't even know if I spelled that right. Looks like I spelled it wrong. There we go. Music's loud. Thank you. Thank you, chat. I'll turn it down. Alright, we just cut the music a little bit. So let's see what happens with saturation. Cool. Now the Zesty logo is red. I originally wanted it red. Fun fact. But yeah, Zesty looks a little bit funny there. I think you can go negative, and which should black and white it things, yeah, which is super cool. So again, this image is rendered. This isn't done with CSS, not done with the graphics hardware processor. It's actually done in the cloud, and it gives to you. So if I look at this image, this is the brand new image, and it's going to be in WebP. And let's see the optimization of it. It's pretty amazing how optimized it makes it. So using on the fly is huge, huge, huge. And like we're guilty, like we need to even use it in our marketing website. We need to, some of our website developers that work in the marketing website should be watching this, making those updates. So you see the pass here, but the response is in WebP, but this was a large JPEG, if you remember, but it's responding as WebP. And if we get rid of this, it's 15.9 kilobytes, which is still extremely small. So like an MP3 is like 3.5 megabytes to give you an idea. Really big images, we've seen images be like 10 megabytes. If you're doing like 1 million requests a day, this adds up. So like everything you shave off is gonna save. Like I've seen bills, $50,000 bills for data transfer, which is insane in a single month, just to give you an idea of like, and using this made a huge difference. Those bills went from like 50K to like 5K. There's a huge difference, some even less. So definitely leveraged on the fly media. Again, you can just search Zesty OTF docs and it will show up in Google. You can also find it on zesty.org. But a lot of cool stuff you can do with media. All right, so we got the page. And this is our beautiful article page here. We're going to show how we reference that article on our homepage. So let's build like a little navigation right now because I don't have a navigation. So I'm going to go into my header, and I am just going to turn this into a little nav just to get us going. Alright, so now we got our homepage, beautiful nav, cool. Now I don't have to write in the URL. So I click home, and then I have articles in my first article. So let's open up the homepage component, and again, this is going to be in Views Zesty homepage. And this is the code we wrote earlier, and I hard wrote the article here. I don't want to hard write the article. What if my article name changes? Oh gosh, we're going to have an issue, right? Because we have hard written code. This is what we need to do. We're going to go into Zesty Manager, and this is one way to do it. I'm going to show you the cool and fun way to do it. And we're going to go to the home page. And if you notice, we have title, subtitle, intro text, image. We're going to put top articles here. So we're going to create a one-to-many reference. So we're going to go into Schema, and we're going to add a field called many to one. And we're going to call it like top articles. Add field. And when you add that field, you have to set up the relation. So the model I'm going to relate it to is called articles, and the title, what I'm going to show in the dropdown is going to be title. This is for the authors themselves to see. So I just added this one to many, and now I'm going to go back. Two ways to go: shortcut, edit items. I can find up here, I can find my homepage, or I can go back to the content app and click homepage. And if I scroll down, I'm going to see the one to many relationship, and I just have one here, so I'm just going to add this one article. Hit save. Okay, so now I have access to this item. There is, how do I access this item? It's called top articles. I can map through these. So this is a one to many, and it's going to be just like the image thing. So I'm going to look at this data just so we can see it. And if you want to see what this data looks like, this is the manual way. You can open up Preview in Web Engine, and you just tag to JSON to it. And this is going to show you the object which you're working in. So this will make a little bit more sense. Go title, content, and this is how we're accessing things over here to the left. Let's make this a little bigger. So you can see subtitle, and now I have top articles. Heck yeah. And you can see type is relationship, model is articles, total items is 1. But I still have a data array, so I still have to loop through my data array to access this. So now I don't need to hard write the reference, the link reference. I can map through it like I had done before. So my articles. So I'm going to set up my open up so I can write JavaScript and JSX. I'm going to say content dot top articles dot data, because that's where my array is, dot map, and inside the map I set the variable to access the object I want to write with, and it's article. And then I'm going to write this in li, because I'm going to make a list of articles. Even though I technically have one, we can add another one to show how this will automatically work and populate. So we are going to create an A tag in here. You can also use a link tag with next, but we'll just continue using references here. And then inside the reference, I'm going to say article. And I know what it is, but I'll walk you through what it is. So it's going to be article. This is my top articles, and there's an array of my articles. So I have title, article body, article images, meta. So I'm going to look for meta, web, and URI. So meta, web, URI. And what I can use for my title, I can actually grab my SEO meta title, which is the better thing to do. Like, you could grab the title from the article, but it's not as good because you want to use the meta reference that your content marketers are putting in. So let's use the meta reference. So I'd say article.meta.web.SEO meta title. Hit save, and let's see what happened here. I have an error. Cannot read properties undefined data. Maybe I need a hard refresh because I updated the data. I do. That's what it is. So remember, if I change the data in the remote cloud location, Next's hot reload won't have the latest data because it caches it. You need to do a hard refresh. Okay, cool. So now I have my article of the day. If I click this, it brings me to my beautiful article. So now I'm going to click back. Cool. All right, so this is mapping. So that means that whatever articles I add here are going to show up. So let's go ahead and add a new article. So I can come back to my content app, click articles, create new article, the best article I've written. And article body is really cool stuff. And we're going to throw an image in there. Let's go upload a new image. Let's see. Let's go into Stuart's first day. Oh, are any of those loaded? Nope. All right, we'll go back to the general office. There's a picture of me when I had long hair and a scruffy beard. Wait for it. So this is a big one again. These are coming from DSLRs, and why it's really important to use on the fly. I can pre-select this, but let's wait for it to generate. This one's taking a little while. We'll just load it for now because we have the reference, and we'll create item. Okay, so now if I hit save here, and I go back to my home page, refresh because it changed remotely, it's not showing up. Why? Well, we created the article, but we didn't create a reference to in the home page to top articles because we're looping through the top articles relationship. So we need to add this one, right? This one's called the best article I've written. And now if I hit save, I go back, refresh, we'll see a link to it. So I've got two articles, my article of the day and best article I've written, automatically loading. And there's the image that I uploaded sideways in black and white. Looks great. Cool. So let's make this a little bit, add a little flavor, right? So now that we're able to loop through this image article, we can do a lot more with it. And that's what's really cool. So I'm just closing. How I close this bar over here is just Control B. Get rid of my file browser here, just so I have a little bit more real estate to work in. So I'm going to go back to my home page, and here's what's cool about the on-the-fly setup. So I had a list item. I don't want a list item. I want a div. And I'm going to change the way this looks. So my A tag is still good, right? I want to still encapsulate that. I'm going to have a title now, and that title is going to be, I don't know, let's just make this an H6 or something. All right, H6, H6. What's going on with the music here? It's really low. All right, H6, H6, and now let's get access to these images. Why not, right? So I can grab the first image here. So I go image, source, and remember how I access it, I'm just gonna say article dot article images, because that's what it was, and dot data, and I just want the first one. So if I'm just getting the first one or the second one, I can just access them from the array. I don't need to write a map. So I'm just gonna say that URL, and we're going to go through OTF again. So I'll do this so it looks really funny. So that one's nice and small, that's good, but this one is huge, right? So we want to use OTF to get this to work a little bit better. And let's get rid of this app icon. Let's go back into articles, best article I've written, not that one, the latest one, and let's just get rid of these two. So we'll just have Jackson, the image there. So we'll save that, and we'll update it just to show the difference. And so now I'm loading this giant image, right? And this is now the links, right? So kind of creating like a thumbnail preview of the article. Again, same thing I can do with equals, you know, I don't know, 200 here to make them smaller, and now I have articles with images, which is nice. But let's use on-the-fly image to make it better. So again, you got to open up your string literal, throw your question mark in, and say width equals 200. And I'm just going to make it, I like to do this, keep it clean. So thumbnail width equals 200. And then I can paste this here. This is a variable, so I need to reference it that way inside. And then same thing with width, reference. Now I have my thumbnail. So with OTF, on the fly image editing, you can crop too. So I can say this is gonna just crop equals 1:1, I think is an equal ratio. Let's see if I'm right about that. And it should give me squares, 200 by 200 squares. Perfect. And now if I want that to be 150, it's going to rebuild that for me too. Very nice. So cool. So that's how now I can work. These are hot linkable articles, and because they are a little hard to see, I can write styles inside of here. So in JSX, you have to write styles is different. You can't write styles the same way you write it in HTML. You have to write it like this. So I think it's BG color. bear with me if I'm wrong here. EEE. Looks like I was very wrong. Maybe it's background color. Also wrong. Let's see if chat has any answers for me. Alright, let's fill it up. So styles, JSX, background. I'm not ashamed to do this. I can do other I promise I know the program. Not ashamed. Changing background color in React. Let's see. Nope. Nope. Not what I'm looking for. I guess. Oh, that's the issue I have. It's not styles, it's style. There you go. Save. So there's the background image. So now I could do something cool. Like, so since I know this thumbnail width, I can now say background color EE and then say comma. I could change the width of my item to match, right? Oh, I don't want to copy that. I want to copy my reference, right? Save. So now that's here. Let's see what Giselle got. It's style. Thanks, Giselle. Definitely a delay. Maybe I need to stream faster to get some chat up in the mix. So now I can reference the same thumbnail with here, and then if I want to give it a little bit of padding, and I mean this is like if you've been building websites, all this is pretty standard stuff, but let's just throw a 10 pixel padding around it. And let's give it a margin right. You know, let's make this look awesome. Margin right, 10 pix, right? So it has a margin right, but we need to float it. So I believe I can go like this. I'm going to create a Flexbox. So I'm not using, we use Material UI. There's Bootstrap. I'm writing raw HTML JavaScript just for simplicity, but I will do a style. And then inside of here, I'm going to write flex. It's display flex, I think. And flex. Don't be mad at me. I gotta finish my. It's mad because I didn't close out my tags. Cool. Now I'm starting to line things up. Now we're cooking with class. Awesome. So that's working. Let's just review what's been done before we wrap up the session. Is we walk through the different software you need to install. Went through that in the beginning. We then fired up with the Next.js application in Zesty. We ran into an issue, two issues there, where we were missing an npm module, so we installed that. And then we logged into Zesty with the account we created, and we added a stage password, which is really important to connect the data. We went into our Next.js config, and we updated the stage password. Then we started working inside of the folder system of Next.js, which we showed how a generic page was made that would override Zesty, and then we showed how Zesty components sync down. And then we started playing with on-the-fly image editor, and we built out pages. And if I click into the best article I've ever written, we'll see what that article page looks like, and that template's all there. We have a header and footer. Now we can keep building out our site here. What's cool about Zesty in this setup, you can deploy server-side rendering. So if you were to deploy this application SSR, it means that every article you write would automatically update the views. So if you're not doing pre-builds, not using static site generation, a save and publish will automatically update the page without triggering a build process, which is also super cool. So that's the session today. Hopefully it was super helpful. If you want to hear anything else, if you want other examples of how to do things, post in comments down below. You can also join our chat, and then we'll see you there. So thank you all and have a wonderful day.